Hey guys, Izzy here with another beginner's guide for Arknights. We got a lot of content to cover, so let's just jump straight in. So the first part that I wanted to discuss was the banner. I wanted to wrap up our banner discussion just because I forgot to mention a key thing within the last video, and that's if you notice here at the very bottom right, you'll notice that there's this little tag that says guarantees a 5-star or higher operator within the next 10 rolls. This is true of every limited time operation. Whenever you do your initial 10 rolls, you're always going to get a 5-star or higher. Now if you notice the cost per roll, you'll notice that a single one is 600 versus the 6,000 for 10 rolls, so they are actually even. Going for a 10 roll pretty much only really just saves you time, and so for this reason, if you ever encounter a banner where you don't intend to pull heavily for any of the characters, then I always still recommend that you do single pulls just until you get your 10 rolls done. This just sort of lets you get that guaranteed 5-star operator and just sort of helps beef up your squad with as many 5-star plus operators as possible. So that's the one thing I wanted to mention about banners that I didn't mention in the previous video. Just sort of let's move on to other stuff. So the next decision you're really going to need to make is, after you finish your rollings, is what are you going to do with like your sanity, and how are you going to tackle playing the game. So for the most part, I recommend to focus on 2 to 3 main areas early on, and the first is obviously going to be the story. So doing the initial story missions will give you a slew of free operators as you're just completing through as well as helps you get a grasp of the game as you're completing through these tutorials. You'll just get introduced to the mechanics of the game, but also just get a bunch of 3-star operators. And this is important because 3-star operators are, in my opinion, the rarity where I really start to consider investing mats into making those operators better. I'll have another video discussing the differences of rarities and what you get, or what each operator of each rarity ends up getting. But in short, 3-star operators is a good place to start investing your resources in. So the next area, aside from story, which you should always be doing, is these supply areas down here. So of these supply areas, you'll have quite a few of them. The one I tend to focus on early on is the tactical drill. The tactical drill gives you a bunch of EXP cards based off of the difficulty that you've finished accomplishing, and these are important because you'll be using these to level up your operators. Leveling up your operators will in turn make them more powerful, which of course lets you then complete higher levels of tactical drill, as well as lets you get further into the story. And you'll want to do this as opposed to some of the others, just because I feel like while like cargo export does give you money and LMD is definitely very useful, especially as the game progresses, early on in the game I feel that you do get a nice stockpile of LMD to level up your operators, and so you can kind of hold off on that until you start really upgrading your operators and promoting them. That's where the bulk of those LMD costs are going to come from. Likewise, aerial threat helps you get skill books that you'll need in order to upgrade the skills of your 3-star plus operators. Again, I feel like the game does give you a fair supply of these early on in order to help you get your skills leveled up. Yes, once time goes on and once you start really upgrading your operators to higher and higher skills, you will need to do all of these just to keep up with skill books. But early on, I think it's fair to just sort of hold off on like heavily farming tough siege, aerial threat, and cargo escort. So the other main supply run that you should definitely consider is probably research search. Just because this is where you're going to get the bulk of the materials that you're going to use to upgrade and develop your base. There'll probably be a different video on base in the future, but this is where you're going to get the mats in order to flush out your base. And that's important because your base is going to be responsible for generating resources like gold, which you can then throw into your factory, your trading post for additional LMD, and yeah, or you can also use your factories to produce EXP cards. Both good options, and both will help you promote your units. So the reason we're doing all of this, and the reason we're like pushing our units to be as strong as possible early on, is mainly for this final area, which is Annihilation. So Annihilation is super important. It's a unique type of operation, takes a lot longer to complete. Basically, you'll have a single operation with 400 enemies, spanned out over several waves, and you really want to clear these early on, or as soon as possible. And the reason for that is because you get a weekly or random supply for clearing them. That supply will be based off of how many of the how many of the enemies you successfully kill in combat, with the most obviously being 400 enemies. And you want to do these operations so that you can very quickly get your weekly supply of Arundum. Even at a base amount of 1200, you're still looking at 2 pulls per 2 pulls for the 1200 Arundum, which translates to 2 pulls worth of currency per week, which is very good. You will get a large supply of Arundum weekly from doing this. The other reason is that you will hit, for each Annihilation mission, certain thresholds which will give you bonus rewards. And these rewards for the first one seem pretty simple, but for the second and third one, which you can't see because they're not unlocked right now, they will also include a boost to your weekly Arundum supply. So you'll actually be able to get even more currency from completing Annihilations. So you really want to do them as soon as possible. Moving forward, obviously in order to do all of this, you're going to need a team composition. And so you can make team compositions within the squad section, and a squad can hold up to 12 individual operators. So in the beginning, I mentioned that you will get free operators just from completing the story. You'll get a bunch of free star operators like Melotha and Fang and pretty much all of these that you see over here. You'll be getting them for free. In the beginning, you're free to obviously just include them. In fact, they'll usually pace it out so that you have a training mission that grants you a 3-star operator, followed by another mission in which said 3-star operator that you just got will be very useful in. However, once you get 13 plus units, it's time to start, making decisions as to where to invest your resources and, how are you going to span out your team composition. So I'll have different videos breaking down different classes and subclasses, as well as, individual operators for each class and subclass. But to get you through the early game, I find that a very balanced team composition of just 2 of the following operators are going to serve you well. I recommend having 2 vanguards, guards, defenders, snipers, casters, and medics. You'll notice that I pretty much just left out support and specialists, not necessarily because I think that they're bad. They're definitely very good, and if you do get a good one, definitely include them into your team. But I find that this initial group will serve you very well, at least throughout the beginning of the game. A few things that you might choose to consider will probably be a slow support, so you'll get Orchid for free, definitely a very useful unit, and you'll also get Shaw for free, who is a specialist with the ability to push enemies away, and of course you will then get another one in the form of your, not your limited time event, but your 7 consecutive sightings. You will get Cliffheart, which will have the ability to pull enemies. These will all be useful in certain specific situations, but I don't think you'll heavily need them early on, and so I feel like it's okay to just sort of have them on the side and just focus with the sort of team composition that I suggested beforehand. Now, naturally, the gacha is going to have some play in this and might necessarily skew your composition. Not much you can do about it. You see here that I have, Neural, Croissant, and Kura. I just happened by, rolling on the gacha, just happened to get like 3 guards. All 3 of them pretty solid, and yeah, I mean, that's just how it is. So if that does happen, not much you can do except for, try to compensate for your weaknesses with whatever you happen to have like strengths in. So the last area that we're going to discuss is really going to be the doctor levels. So as you're playing through the game and doing all this stuff, you'll likely be getting doctor levels. In fact, early on you'll be leveling up probably before you ever run out of sanity, which will in turn help you refill your sanity and increase your max sanity and let you keep going further and further. A few things will come as a result of that. The first thing you're going to want to do is, once you hit level 5, you'll want to go into the store and check out the pack section. All the way at the right, you'll see 2 enhancement packs. So one of them is going to be completely free. The other of them will cost premium currency. Not really much to say about the free one. It's free, gives supplies, just grab it. The one you might have questions about will be the Pro Enhancement Pack. This is also actually very much worth it, and you should grab these whenever possible. The thing about them is that while they do cost 3 currency, you will always get a rundum within the pack equal to the conversion of the premium currency. So you can see here, you can see some like rundums within the picture, but you can see here that this costs 3 premium currency. So within this pack will be, 3 Arknight Primes worth of a rundum. So you'll get 540 a rundum within the pack. So it's effectively an even conversion. There are a few things you can do with the Originium that you can't do with the rundum, and that's mainly purchasing for things like outfits and purchasing things within the furniture store. But aside from that, pretty much you can do pretty much anything with a rundum that you would be able to do with Originium. And so definitely get your packs ASAP. You'll get these packs pretty much every 5 levels, and you get them for like pretty long into the game. You will get them even at pretty high levels. And so with each pack, the cost will definitely go up, but obviously you'll just get more rundum within each pack. On a final note, we'll definitely want to check out our missions, and you'll probably just start completing these as you play out the game. When you start, you'll have access to 4 different types of missions: pinboard, daily, weekly, and campaign missions. You'll want to do your daily missions every single day. They're a source of just free stuff, including 100 rundum per day, and just some cash XP cards and roll stuff. Nothing bad here, nothing like super amazing, but you will complete most of these missions just by playing the game normally. So yeah, more free stuff for doing things normally. Weekly missions are pretty much the exact same thing, except with higher requirements and higher rewards. So obviously you will, just like with daily missions, want to do these for those higher rewards. And again, nothing here will be sort of out of the ordinary. You'll pretty much guaranteed to get these as long as you're constantly playing the game normally. The 2 areas that you'll then need to like sort of do certain special things will be your pinboard and your campaign missions. These are all fairly simple. You usually just do X of something within the factory or within the workshop, or in the case of pinboard missions, you'll have a few other more specialized requirements, so like change the name of a squad or something. You just do them, you knock them out, get some free supplies, and then at the end you will get another reward. The pinboard missions are not going to stick around forever. There is a limit to them. Once you finish them, you'll eventually just run out of pinboard missions, and then these three will stick around. The same thing is true for campaign missions. They will also eventually run out. So you will have campaign missions over here that will run out once you finish the last mission within the story, which currently in NA is the end of chapter 6. You will get your last campaign mission. Side missions will also run out over time. Side missions are also very simple. Again, just, produce something like in the factory or within the workshop, or clear certain missions. Some of those supply missions, they'll just basically be tasked with completing each and every single one of them. You'll obviously want to do those anyways, just because eventually you will need all those supplies. Not to mention they do give you that premium currency once you 3-star them the first time. You'll also get these yellow background missions. These will really just task you with improving 2 3-star operators over time. Initially there'll just be 1, and then it'll be 2. Any 3-star operator will work. The 2 in the picture, Fang and Melantha, are actually pretty solid 3-star operators, so I actually they're not actually a bad choice to level up. So if you're wondering which to level up, those 2 will work quite well. But yeah, any of them will work. So a final note on missions is that for your weekly missions and for your Annihilation, the week begins on Monday and not Sunday. That might be a little confusing at first for NA players, but yeah, that's how it is. These weekly missions will refresh each Monday, so yeah, you can get started on those then. So that's pretty much it for this video. Like I said, in the future, I'm going to have a few other videos, namely on different star rarities and what you get with different star rarities, as well as a breakdown of classes, subclasses, and operators. After that, once we get into once I get into some of the more difficult content, I will definitely have guides on clearing out those missions. But yeah, that's all for this video. So if you liked any of this stuff, or you like any of this content, yeah, feel free to comment, sub, do all that jazz. And yeah, we'll be back in the future with more stuff.